Started. I already have the live stream waiting, so let's go live. All right.
All right.
All right. Hold on. Let me also record on Zoom.
That'd be good.
This meeting is being recorded.
Because, like, you know, I don't like the actual audio from the stream is going to be much worse than the audio from the Zoom, and so. Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
We thought we would start our Father's Day episode. Yeah.
Let's just clap for ourselves.
Okay.
My dad is behind the door. All right.
Yeah, I guess we don't have any preamble.
Yeah, there's no reason to.
Yeah. All right. Well, for anticipation's sake, I'm going to admit our fathers into the room. Please welcome.
Oh, there they are.
Yes. Oh, yes.
There they are.
All right.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. My father is there. There we go.
There we go.
For
We're
anticipation sake.
Dad, I think your audio is like looping or something. Do you mind like muting or finding headphones?
No, I think he's watching us.
Our only fan. Yeah, he was joking about how he was going to be our only viewer as well as the audience. How is everyone doing
not
today?
A joke. Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
And Mr. Drimbus, happy belated birthday.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to be the first one to say happy birthday for next year. First, I'm always first. Yes. I think far ahead. How are we?
We are good. It's a good weekend.
Mr. Zonizer, how are you doing?
So I'm an expert at Zoom, and I was on a work call this week, and I was trying to pretend like I was participating in the Zoom, but I was actually listening to a voicemail message from a client that I needed to answer. But unfortunately, I forgot to put myself on mute. So I'm there faking attention, but clearly doing something else.
So in other words, you're like every seventh grader I teach?
Yes. Or worse. I'm sure there will be some of that today as well.
Well, as long as it's watching us is the other thing that you're doing, then we'll allow it. Because if your attention is not fully on the Boonch Boys, like in the actual meeting, it must be on the Boonch Boys watching us as a fan.
Exactly.
So what?
I thought you guys were gonna go like 15 minutes before we got introduced. So.
We had nothing to talk about.
Yeah, we're still fine.
We felt bad keeping you in the waiting room.
Yeah.
We're not Conan here. We're not. We don't have a monologue to do about the traffic on the 495.
Tell me about it.
Right. So how many viewers do we have?
We have 2 concurrent viewers. 3 concurrent viewers. So
3 concurrent viewers. Oh,
yes,
that's a big deal.
It might be my grandma and my uncle, but we know it's not Amelia because she's in Costa Rica. So
nice.
hey,
it's consistently more than I think we're gonna get. So
look, the thing is, most great ideas were not appreciated in their time, right? Like shampoo, general relativity, like. Nobody thought that it was the best until it was.
Yeah, we're up there with general relativity.
So how do you guys plan to celebrate today, your day of fatherhood?
I am spending time with my son. I already heard from my other son, who's in Evanston, but I'm spending time with that other boy and family dinner tonight.
Indeed. You tell him about the dessert we're going to be having.
Oh no.
We are. So traditionally for the Drembus birthdays, there's a chocolate cake that was my mother's recipe. And this year I decided to go a different way. and we are going to. Can I plug a place on this?
Let's
on
go.
this podcast. We are going to Paradise Ice Cream in Springfield, Virginia.
Wow.
And we are getting some good sized ice cream sandwiches, Oreo and chocolate chip ice cream sandwiches, and that is going to be dessert. So we're excited about that, trying them out.
Amazing. A morally good sized.
My son's up in Massachusetts. Can I go with you guys?
Yes, you are welcome. Yes.
Family dinner is not welcome here in Massachusetts. Sorry.
No.
It's state law.
We actually have a Father's Day tradition with David and Leah where typically I go buy them something expensive and then take them out to eat. I don't know how it worked out, but they've gotten computers on Father's Day.
No, yeah, the one story is that once on Father's Day, we went to see Inside Out, the movie, at a movie theater. You paid
With Richard
for
Kind.
With Richard Kind. He plays Bing Bong.
Yeah.
And then after that, we went to go eat lunch, also my father's treat. And then we made sure to go to Best Buy and get Leah and I laptops just because we needed to. So
That was the best Father's Day ever.
It just shows how great of a father you are.
Yeah.
That's what that demonstrates.
Yeah, the day of Father's Day is demonstrate how good of a father you are, not celebrate it.
Prove it to me.
So yeah, do we?
Good.
Why don't we get into some questions? We would love to get to know you both better.
Yeah, we don't know you guys well enough.
I don't know any of you at all. So
Where am I?
So yeah, I'm going to be asking David Drembus question. It doesn't really matter. We're all going to be answering the question.
Yeah, I think both of the questions are good for
Yeah.
both of the fathers.
All right, perfect. So I'm going to ask Father Drembus, what was your what was your favorite educational experience and why? Because you went, tell everybody where you went to schools and what your experience was at those schools.
All right, so we'll do this sort of in 3 steps. I'm fairly local. I started in Fairfax County when I was 7. So I pretty much grew up around here and went to Fairfax County schools. Then I went to UVA for college, and then more recently completed the Educate Virginia program that allowed me to transition from my old career, my former career, to being a teacher. There are a lot of great educational experiences, a lot of great teachers that I've had. But I think I would stay more recent and say just what I learned and the caliber of people I learned it from when I did my teacher training was fairly amazing, and just a lot of people who have been doing this for a long time, teaching, coaching, being in administration, and also are still doing it and still had time to put together various types of curricula for us to engage in and really tell us a lot of useful things about teaching rather than just the textbook stuff. So I, again, not to keep plugging things, but if anyone out there, any of your viewers thinking about becoming a teacher in Virginia, Educate VA is the way to go. It's
a good thing that they're good educators. You know what I mean? Like that's, it would be bad
Yeah.
if you did not learn well at that.
Exactly. Now, I will say this. There were a bunch of times when they had to just sort of sit and tell us a bunch of things. And they specifically said, don't do this to your own students. Don't stand up there and just sort of, fire hose out the information to them. But we have a limited amount of time, so we have to do that. So even when they were not doing what is, I guess, pedagogically the correct thing to do, they were telling us that it was not pedagogically the correct thing to do. So yeah, no, they were very good.
I feel like adulthood, you need to it's about efficiency, just give me the information, I'll go on my way. Kids are much more, you need to engage them, but adults, it's like, give me a deck and I'll just write all down all the information. So that makes sense.
Now, can I ask a follow up? Because you know a lot of now I think this can go for both of you. A lot of educational experiences, uh, you know, the context is the classroom, you know, where you're going to school and all this sort of stuff. Um, but also, a lot of educational experiences just happen while you're out living life, and you just, you know, you're not ready for it, and then it's there, and then you've learned something. And now, Dad, this still for you might still be in the classroom, but as a teacher, is there another sort of educational experience you've had there that stands out, Mr. Zonizer, in your life? Is there a an experience that you've had not necessarily in a formal education setting that has changed your perspective, that has helped you to learn something new and important?
Oh, Keith, you should go. I started this thing off. You should. Jump.
We here on the Boonch Boys we do
alternate. Yeah, that's a tradition.
That is a rule.
During when that was going to happen. All right, well, so I'll answer David's question first. I did my undergraduate at The Ohio State University. Grew up in central Ohio in a suburb called Upper Arlington, which was great. Very good education, public education system. Did history and French at The Ohio State, then went on and did Masters of Theological Studies at Harvard Divinity School because I was interested in American religious history. So I was doing that there, and then went on to do PhD at University of California, Santa Barbara. And I enjoyed all three of those phases. There was something good, lots of good at each of them. I think I enjoyed the graduate work at Santa Barbara. That was just when I was sort of peak historian. Or well, that's actually owning myself for the remainder of my career. So I will say, it was when it was still there wasn't huge amounts of pressure, but it all started coming together. The knowledge and the writing, and I had a great advisor, great committee, and great friends and colleagues, and it was just beautiful out there for 3 years. So yeah, I think that was the great experience. Henry, I'm trying to think of a good answer to your question.
It's a pretty broad question. I don't. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, all of our questions are not specific.
Yeah.
I have a funny example, and I'm not sure what I learned from it, and I'm not even sure. Okay, I'll just say this. Once when I was teaching at University of Southern Indiana, which is where we were right before we came to DC, which is in Evansville.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. So I taught some at Ohio State, and I taught 1,000 student classes in the American History Survey, which was ridiculous. And that was just like performance art, but it was fun. I didn't have to meet any students because I had grad students take care of that. And so it was crazy because I had to write those lectures right before I gave them. That was good because I got to learn what I could do, and that was high pressure and high stakes. I remember, so I had gone to Ohio State as an undergrad, so I was teaching there just when we got back from Argentina. And one of my old professors, I bumped into him in the mailroom at one point, and he said, "Oh yes, I remember these days where if you get a flat tire, your entire quarter is ruined." And it really did feel like that.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed the teaching. So I had this one experience at Southern Indiana where the classes were much smaller, about 35 to 40 students, and still doing my American history class. And then one day after class, a woman came down and she was very sheepish, and she said, "I don't know how to say this, but I was sitting in the back row, and the girl next to me had her hand in her boyfriend's pants all through your lecture." And I said, "Clearly that is unacceptable." So then before the next class, I had to pull those two aside and say, I never thought I was going to have to say this to any student ever. However, save that for the dorm room. This is a classroom.
Yeah.
What's the lesson from that? Henry, what did I draw from that? Don't take anything for granted.
Yeah, no, I obviously that's an important lesson to learn, but also I think in regards to what you're saying a little earlier about I think a lot of times we do get sort of thrown into these situations where it's, like you said, very high stakes, very high pressure, and like you said, we get to sort of learn what we can do, and maybe in some cases what we can't do as well. So I think that's a good answer. Good answer.
Good answer.
It's up there, Steve.
It's up there, Steve.
And my dad, answer to the question.
Now there's pressure to top that answer.
Yeah.
I have no illusions.
I would
I'm gonna be able
hope
to
that's
do that.
not happening.
You can
in
always
your
just
seventh
tell the
grade.
same story if you need.
Right. No, not at all. There are. I think it's just. I mean, with teaching, I think it's just the unexpected. Like Keith said, I think kids say things regardless of what age they are, or do things that it's not written down in the training manual that this is going to happen next. And sometimes they're silly or ridiculous or disrespectful, but sometimes they're poignant and heartfelt, and you really, I think my biggest learning over the past couple of years of teaching has really been how fully formed in some ways 12 and 13-year-olds are. They have real thoughts, they have real feelings, they're not just concerned about themselves and who's friends with them and who's not friends with them. They have real lives outside of school that they bring to school, much like all of us bring to work or to school. And so I think learning about how to respect that and hear that has been something that I don't know that I expected to have to do when you go into a classroom. Sort of, instead of thinking about a classroom of 25 or 30 kids, thinking about a classroom full of 25 or 30 individuals, and sort of teaching accordingly. So yeah, I would say that's been a big thing.
What grade do you teach, Mr. Drebus?
Seventh grade math.
I had a professor that I had at Ohio State, I did my senior honors thesis with, who I greatly respected, and he was an excellent teacher. And he said, if I hadn't taught college, I would have taught seventh grade, because seventh grade and like freshman year in college are 2 points of real transition for kids or young adults, and it's a time when a teacher can have real impact. So that sounds like what you're saying. That's really cool. Yeah.
No, it has been, the last 2 years have been quite an experience. Just, we have our own children and they've been in seventh grade, but getting to know just such a variety of other people's children, and sort of, again, what they bring from their own lives to the classroom has been amazing.
I certainly have a lot of, I think, admiration for those teachers who want to jump into those times of transition, because I think, yes, you can have a big impact, but also, things are a little crazy at that point. Lots of stuff going on in seventh grade and freshman year of college. Lots of, hands in your boyfriend's pants, all this sort of stuff. So there's a lot going on, but no, I think that's great.
Okay.
And David,
do you want to ask a question? I was
okay.
I was gonna say you guys have very poignant answers.
Yeah, no, this is awesome.
Well, yeah, when we ask a question, it's usually 20 minutes of talking about horses.
Yeah, it's usually just us talking about one giant cashew. Okay. Well, I like this first one that you had, David, because it seems very good for today.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a favorite memory of being a father that you have? And we'll start, because we alternate. I'll start with Mr. Zahnizer.
Am I allowed to use props?
Please.
and not as in mad props for the Shema, but
Yes.
What a
Pictures.
reference.
Yes, bringing it back.
about the internal reference. All right, so I have some pictures because I couldn't answer it with one thing. So I have sort of 3 or 4 groups of things, and maybe we can burn through these in like 3 minutes.
Sounds
Awesome.
good.
Right, so the first ones I didn't have time to scan, so I'm going to just put them up. This is
Oh my god.
Dad and David at my parents' house in Columbus.
Wow.
So the theme here is trips to Ohio to see relatives. And also in that theme, I think he might be watching. This is David's Uncle Mark, my brother, introducing David to the pool. So can you let me share my screen?
Yes, of course. There you go.
Now what do I have to? Oh, I have to share my screen.
Yeah.
Is that how that works?
So once I share my screen, all right. So one of the favorite memories I have is years and years and years and years of watching both David and his sister play soccer. And it was a huge time commitment for all 3 of us, but just so much fun in the end, being able to go and participate in these. And this is David's, I think, first team, which was Springfield Youth Club. And then he was shifted to Gunston. They were pretty good. And you did that till when, David? You were, sorry, David, I should have run these by you.
I don't
These are completely unedited, by the way.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I joined Gunston, I think, in 5th or 6th grade. Or no. No, yeah, I think that's right, because then I sort of stopped soccer around 8th grade, end of 8th grade.
All right. Trips with David and his sister. This was to
Great Wolf Lodge.
Great Wolf Lodge when young, and then New York City when older. We
Rocket.
did not go ice skating. So, David, I couldn't find your bat mitzvah
Interesting.
photos,
Interesting.
so I had to use one of
So we have
Leah's.
Leah's.
Bat mitzvah. Your bar mitzvah, I don't know. It's I just couldn't find them in time. This occurred to me late. Anyway, there you are participating, and so that was, of course, very significant.
Oh my god,
David
look at that hair.
Was one of the first high school students to get invited to the International Saxophone Symposium that's held every year and sponsored by the U.S. Navy Band. So he killed it. That was awesome. Did a thing called Virginia Music Adventures. Got to play live at local restaurants and perform. Did that a couple of years. Always good to see him. So watching David play saxophone is the 2nd or 3rd theme.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Boys.
That was like sophomore year or something.
Henry, I wish you were in this photo.
It's fine. I think that was before homecoming, so
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
I just have always been a good memory is David's group of friends going through school. And again, I didn't have enough time to find a good one with you in it, but you're certainly included in this group. And just it's a great memory to know that your kids got to go through early years with a great group of people that they'll probably keep in touch with. All right, then he graduated from high school. That's always good.
Yeah.
And then we went to
yes.
visit Pittsburgh, where yes, there is a Zonizer Street, and he just graduated from Pittsburgh. So
Yeah.
That's not a picture of me graduating. That was like
that's visiting.
that was us visiting. Yeah,
Well, you haven't gotten your actual diploma yet, so we have to wait for that to
I
come
know.
in.
I'm still worried about that.
All right, that's it.
Well,
Lovely.
nice.
Letting me do
Wow.
Yeah, why don't you stop sharing your screen?
that. I don't know how to. Oh yeah, here where it says stop share.
We'll just keep that picture up for the rest of it.
On Boonch Boys, we don't know how to use Zoom.
Well, thank you. That was wonderful. I enjoyed looking at a lot of those pictures. That's fun.
Young us.
Yeah, I think we met, you and me, not me and my dad. I think we met around when you were joining Gunston, if we're all remembering things
That's true.
correctly.
Yeah, I remember you were a lot more wild of a boy than you are now.
That's true. That is definitely true. It was the me and Brian Reyes and Joel Heidi situation there.
Yeah,
Not to plug again, but shout out to Joel and
Joel Heidi.
Brian. Anyway, well, that is wonderful. Mr. Drembus.
Yeah, I did not bring props. I am
Neither
feeling
did I,
underprepared here.
Yeah, we don't even do
Yeah,
that.
I was gonna
we're less
say,
prepared than everybody.
That was awesome. So I will just segue by seconding what Mr. Zonheiser said about your group of friends, because that was, as I think every parent of those kids would say, pretty much a highlight of us being able to watch you in middle school and especially in high school. That was pretty amazing, and something that I hope you guys don't take for granted, because it does not happen to everybody. That was outstanding. You know, I think my my highlights of parenthood sometimes were watching my kids learning something for the first time that, you know, we as adults already knew, watching them go through the same things that we had gone through, whether it was bar mitzvahs and sort of preparing and learning for that, songs that they heard for the first time. I think specifically with Henry, a lot of my favorite parts of parenting have to do with the humor. That he has always been very good at finding and just sharing that, but also seeing it in other settings, seeing him be funny and take enjoyment from things. So I don't know that I have, you know, specific days or things like that in mind. I will tell one story. When Henry was very young, when Henry and Philip were very young, we would sing to them at night before they went to bed. And I had a handful of songs that I knew all the words to. And one of them was Piano Man, right? Piano Man?
No,
by
the
Billy
boxer,
Joel.
right?
Oh, The Boxer. Yes,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
right. The Boxer by Simon and Garfunkel. And there's a lyric in that song that references the whores on 7th Avenue that I always changed because, well, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And so I still remember the night where Henry, again, very young, said to me something to the effect of, I think I had been saying the girls on
girls,
7th? Yeah.
And then I had listened to it on the CD,
right,
for the first time. And anyway,
CDs, by the way, CDs, kids, were this thing that we used to. Anyway, but so I was singing the song, and he was going to bed, and he just sort of propped himself up and said, I think you're singing that wrong. And I said, well, what do you mean? And I thought to myself, oh, this is the time where this like tiny baby, this little boy, is going to say the word whore to me, and I'm not going to deal with it well. And what he said was, I think it's the boys on 7th Avenue. And I said, you know what? You're exactly right. That is exactly what the lyrics are. The boys on 7th Avenue. So anyway, that was a memory I have, a specific memory.
It's about the boys from very early on.
Yeah, it's all about the boys.
Yep.
It's always been the boys.
Yeah. Dad, I think you're saying it wrong. I think it says Boonch Boys. I think that's
The Boonch Boys on
On
7th
7th
Avenue.
Avenue.
7th Avenue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can get in touch
Well,
with
good.
us.
Yeah.
Again, very
Well,
very
very
poignant.
nice. We appreciate it. Here on the Boonch Boys, we alternate. David, do you have a question for our fathers?
Yes. By the way, we're already 30 minutes in. We're probably not going to get to all these questions.
No. We don't want.
So I know both of you are siblings, correct? I'm sure that Father
Not
Drumbus...
to each other.
Yeah, you guys are siblings.
Unlocked.
Father Drembus, you have two two other siblings, correct? You're
I did.
also
Very good.
okay. Well, that's something that both of our dads have in common. Are you also the middle, or are you the eldest or youngest?
I am the eldest. I have two younger sisters.
The eldest. Okay, so the experience might be different, but still much closer than we might have. So, what are your guys' favorite and least favorite memories of being siblings? Or how about we just say favorite and then
let's
just like think of memories.
Yeah.
Like
My favorite. Gosh, that's a good one. I mean, my sisters and I are very close in age. Here's a good one. When we were in high school, I think there was a year when, there was the year when I was a senior in high school. My sister Laura was a sophomore. My sister Debbie was a freshman. So we all were at the same school at the same time for 1 year. And I think it was that year, or maybe the year before, I can't remember, where I was a huge fan at the time, this was in the early 80s, of the Go-Go's. And we had an opportunity to go see the Go-Go's, but we didn't have a ride to go see the Go-Go's. And so I think someone I knew who was maybe a year or two older, who had a license, went with us and took us, and all three of us got to see the Go-Go's. I believe the opening band was, and no one will know this, Flock of Seagulls.
Oh yeah.
A great 80s one or maybe two hit wonder band. So I do remember sharing that experience with them. That was a good memory.
Nice.
Yeah.
David, do you know, not you, David Drembus, but David Zonizer, Flock of Seagulls, more modern pop cultural reference from a movie? On the spot.
what,
I'll
give
give
me
you
a
the line.
Give me a yeah.
Hey, Flock of Seagulls, chill.
No
Pulp
idea.
Fiction.
Is it?
Okay.
Yes, Jules, when they go into the apartment and the guy laying on the couch, he calls him Flock of Seagulls because of his haircut. I thought for sure you'd get that one.
Speaking
Can I
of,
share can I share a least favorite? How many viewers
sure.
do we have? Are we still at 3?
We're still at 3.
I don't know if you can see this, but over this this eye right here.
no.
Well, you may not be able to see the scar that I have. That is when my older brother Mark hit me with a baseball bat because he was not happy about something. You, Mark, thank you. Permanent reminder. But then on the flip side, it's one of my good memories is every Christmas time since we've been out in DC, we travel back to Ohio. It's the annual holiday pilgrimage, and typically, well, when the kids were very young, we had to fly because Leah couldn't do 8 hours in a car, and I think then we would do either Columbus or Cleveland, but since Leah got big enough, we typically go to Cleveland and then spend at least Christmas Eve there because that's a big celebration at their house, and so that's always fun. And then go down to Columbus where my younger brother lives and my parents lived. My mom's still there, so that's good memories of the siblings. That's more recent, but it's over a course of maybe at this point like 14 years worth of holidays there in Ohio.
That's
of course,
awesome.
when people say, "Yeah, where did you go to vacation?" I always say, "Well, Ohio," and they're like, "Okay."
Dad, you know about that.
I was just gonna say I need to jump in. Where Cleveland is my hometown. Where does your brother live?
Chesterland, out on the.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm from the South Euclid, Beechwood, that whole area. Very cool.
I've been to a mall in Beechwood.
Hey, maybe you guys were in the same mall at the same time.
I could have happened.
I'd like to bring it back for just a second because we referenced the Flock of Seagulls haircut without looking at it, and it's I think important for us to look at this picture.
There it is.
That is just solid work. Anyway,
Welcome to the 80s.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful. That's it's very nice to hear, and I did not know the Go-Go's story, so that was also nice for me to hear. Um,
It's also very interesting that Henry and I are both siblings of one other person, and you guys were both siblings of two other people. So
Indeed.
I guess Henry and I will have only children, and then eventually nobody.
And then no more errors after that. Yeah. Well, good. Well, I'd like to ask this question because I think it's a great one. Shout out David Zonizer on coming up with this question. So, what's one characteristic you feel that you got from your parents, and we have gotten from you, or your respective son has gotten from you? And we alternate. So, I will start with Mr. Zonizer on this one.
Yeah, I was thinking about this one. I think the importance of curiosity and love of learning. Both my folks were, well, my dad was an academic. My mom also had a couple master's degrees and was worked in the women's studies library, was head of the women's studies library at Ohio State. Both loved to read, and our dinner tables were always active discussions / arguments. If my dad could get us going to argue about something, otherwise, as a professor, he was happy to just click on and lecture for 50 straight minutes or whatever topic. But they both encouraged independent thought, but backed up. So knowing how to support your arguments, and I think that both David and Leah are good at that. And that was actually something I was going to mention in memories, is that just great conversations with two smart kids is just wonderful to have. And sometimes, especially Leah, can be very much an attorney. I understand the frustration my parents went through, but yeah, it's just that I would say that just the importance of curiosity and independent thinking and learning.
Yeah, I called Uncle Mark and Grandma to get some dirt on you, to spring on you in this interview. I didn't get any, but Uncle Mark said that you were very mildly rebellious, like the most mildly rebellious, and that you were technically the trouble child, even though all you did was just have intellectual debates with your father.
Also the issue of going out and staying out late, which was a source of constant struggle. But yeah, I mean, it's cool to have parents that are willing to let you fight with them, argue with them about things. And I ended up doing high school debate, which my father encouraged me to do. I remember the day he came in, he was he had a thing where he would just like drift into a room and make some declaration, like he had clearly been thinking about it, right? And then so I was down doing laundry, and he just suddenly appeared down in the laundry room, which is not someplace you just happen to come into. So he was there with intent, and he's like, I think you should do high school debate. I think you'd get a lot out of it. And so I did, and boy, did he regret that. I used every technique I could. But yeah, so that's what I would say.
Very good. Mr. Drembus.
Yeah, so two things come to mind. One is, and I think this is sort of recent, for you at least, Henry, is a love of crossword puzzles. That is definitely something my father passed on to me, and now I see you and Philip doing. I also think childish humor. I think childish humor is definitely something I picked up from my dad, and now you've turned it into a podcast. So I think that is those are two things.
It's here to stay in the Drembus family.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I think those are the two that stick out the most.
Yeah, I definitely recognize that across the generations.
Crossword puzzles and silliness. That's so classic.
I'll add this. I think both me and Henry have benefited from the fact that while see if I can do this sort of in order. While my dad and I have been silly, we've had in our wives like perfect straight men or straight women who would sort of roll their eyes and tolerate us. So it was a good audience, a good way to keep being silly, because I think our respective wives didn't discourage it, but also were just like, in the sort of sitcom sense, were these sort of put upon wives or put upon moms who were just like, I can't believe this guy is still making these jokes, but put up with us.
That's a very good point.
That is a great point.
Yeah.
Mr. Boonch boy, did I ask the last question, or did you ask the last question?
I asked the last question, and we alternate.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah. You're familiar.
I am familiar. Yeah. Why don't we do this one? What is the value or a value that you have found in being young, and also a value that you have found in being older than when you were young?
Nice way of phrasing that.
Yeah, I didn't want to say old.
Good.
You're
Very
not
careful.
old. Age is a number.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I'll start with the older. I think the easy answer is perspective. You just realize that if something's awesome, there are going to be times where it's less awesome, and then it becomes awesome again. If something works, it might work for a while, it might stop working, you might have to do something differently. So I think I think just having that perspective that if something goes bad for a day, it's not the end of the world, is valuable. I think that you can you realize, and this is certainly true of parenting, you realize after you've made it through sort of the first year and you haven't dropped the baby, that you're going to do things, and you're gonna have less than stellar parenting days, but kids are resilient, and they bounce back, and you keep trying, and you keep trying to do a good job. So you can't get too caught up in, I yelled at Henry today and I probably shouldn't have done that. First, because again, he's not going to remember it, but second, because he probably deserved it. So no, all good. So that's the older one. I think just perspective of having that time pass. Younger, I think it's just optimism. I think I think sometimes it's tough in the world that we live in to have that at your young age, but you should. I mean, the world is your oyster is trite, but it's I think a valuable way to look at things sometimes, because what you're doing at 19 or 20 or 21 may be in no way what you were doing at 9 or 10, and maybe in no way what you're going to be doing at 30 or 40 or whatever. So just the idea that lots is possible, I think is how I would characterize a valuable part of being younger.
Lovely. Absolutely.
I like that.
Lovely.
I'd like to jump in real quick with an idea. I want to get a pet oyster and name it the world, and then the world will literally be my oyster. That's all I had. Mr. Zahn.
Yeah, I would say very similar things. Especially about being young. You have potentially lots of time, and let's hope that that's true for you guys and the people you know. And that does give you a freedom. Plus, you have more energy. When we get to the older, there's just less energy. But yeah, as that same professor that told me about teaching 7th graders also said, part of becoming an adult is realizing that you have to start saying no to things, which just, you can't have infinite possibility forever, but you have it right now. And you just, as you go through, you have to do this instead of that and this instead of that. But right now you can go in so many different directions, and you have the energy to do it. So that's great. One thing I like, the value I see of being my age is that, at this point, I don't feel like I'm trying to prove anything to anybody anymore. It's been been a long time doing my job, and I've done a bunch of the stuff I wanted to do, and that's nice because the pressure's off, so I can think about doing other things, or whether I want to fill in the blanks with more meaningful things, or maybe if I get the urge, I'll switch careers and just kind of go do something that I think is more meaningful. But I just feel like I think the, again, perspective of being in your 50s is that you're not still trying to do all the things that you have to do when you're 20 and 30 and even 40. And one more year and Leah will be off at college. And that, I guess, means that no kid will ever need anything from me for the rest of my life.
Okay,
Isn't that how that works?
yeah, let's
Yeah. Wait,
let's
hold on.
Don't
One
scratch the
second.
record. Scratch the record. That's not there.
Yeah. We're gonna have to take a break. Guys.
Yeah.
Sorry. Conversation, and it worked out very well because earlier last week, I participated. So let's see. So last Boonch Boys episode, we talked about how I did this America Talks thing, and then more recently, I did one that was, instead of across the political spectrum, it was across the age spectrum. And so I had this lovely conversation with this 76-year-old woman named Ellen, and it was really great. And we had a similar conversation about what we think is, great about being our own respective ages. And one of the things she said, and I'd be interested to see, now she's obviously a little bit older than both of you, but a little bit, a good deal older than both of you, but she one of the things that she said was that she knows who she is. She said, I think there is, when you're young, there's a certain amount of excitement in finding out who you are, but also there's a great deal of just peace when you know who you are, you know what you like to do, you know what your commitments are, all this sort of stuff, and you can just be with yourself and be happy with that. And I'd be interested to know if that is something either of you have experienced.
Yeah.
Nice.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, I'll see you later. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And I feel like it's not just I know what I like, or I know what I don't like. It really is the I know who I am, and you don't want to stop growing, you don't want to stop improving, but at a certain point, you're not, I know I'm the person who needs to be at the airport 2 hours early, not an hour. I just know that, and that's how that's going to be. And then you have to accept that. You have to just say, that's who I am. And I think that's a little bit about what Mr. Zonizer was saying about just sort of accepting and being comfortable with that. The idea that you still want to prove things to yourself, maybe, but that you're not out there trying to prove things to other people. And you're not making sort of false choices about what is or isn't valuable. There are some people who can get to the airport 45 minutes before the plane takes off, and the fact that they can do that is not better or worse than the fact that I need to get there 2 hours early. It just is different, and that's what it is. And I think that when you're 54 years old, you start to, or not start to, but you're at a point where hopefully you realize that.
Fully second getting to the airport 2 hours early. Definitely that's part of the wisdom of being our age. Yeah, I hope when I'm it's Ellen, what's the name?
Ellen, yes.
When I'm Ellen's age, that, yeah, I'm not worried about anything at all except yelling at people that are getting on my lawn.
I wondered how long it was going to take before we got to, you kids get off my lawn.
Yeah.
I've got many stories. As David knows, don't get me started. I'm already in training to be that guy, but I've been provoked. That's all I'm going to say. I could write all of next door posts myself.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I think that's 20 years away, being Ellen and a totally grumpy old man. And so I like the idea of being, happy with where things are right now, but as you pointed out, David, leaving room for, there is still time to change or do something new or go in a different direction or layer something else in. And I think, yes, it's good to keep that, and the possibility of those things happening, I think, are greater because you have this solid base. Like all the main things are sort of checked off and taken care of. That creates space for, I've got a list of things I want to do now post pandemic that include like learning how to cook better than I've already cooked, David. That was going to be a memory I wanted to share when we got into watching Chopped together as a family, which was fun until I would start serving them dinner and they would start critiquing it. And they'd say, well, presentation is definitely a 5, the same color. And as mac and cheese and chicken nuggets goes, I think you need to spice up your repertoire a little bit.
Uncreative use of the ingredients.
Cooking, I would like to learn how to cook, and I'm gonna tap David for advice on. I played trumpet growing up, and I still have my trumpet. And every year I say, "Hey, get that thing out, start practicing again." And I would like to learn how to play a little jazz.
Hey.
That's tough. That's a huge thing. But
it's just a language. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I have a question. So, of the things you mentioned about the value of being older, do you think that us trying to apply those lessons that you've learned from experience, do you think there is any value in trying to applying them to our life now, like sort of getting to the pot before the leprechauns? That's not a saying, but just being able to apply that in our lives now versus it's something that is reserved for being older. If that makes sense, like
That's a good question.
Is the wisdom that you learn from being older something that you should try to strive for as a younger person, or is the beauty of it more the journey?
Start with one thing. I think that there are definitely things that are good to hear when you're young that it may take a long time to learn, but it's good to learn them when you're young. Like start saving money, and the beauty of compound interest.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can dedicate yourself to that when you're young and are able to do it financially, it just makes the rest of your life easier. And it would be good if you didn't have to wait 30 years to learn that lesson. And the other one was don't get a PhD in U.S. history. They go together, okay?
I will totally second the invest early, the start small, start something, because like you said, the compound interest, it's real, and it's awesome over a 30 or 40 year period as opposed to a 15 or 20 year period. So yeah, you guys should put a little away, start doing that. The other thing I'll say is, that is a great question, David. I think that the thing that I immediately thought of was that example that we talk about in our house sometimes, where Philip or Henry will have come to us with a question, and we'll give them an answer, and they'll completely ignore it, and then they'll hear that same answer from a friend or somebody else's parent or a rabbi or a whoever, and they'll come back to us and say, you know what I heard? it's the most amazing thing that I just learned. And we'll go, that is incredible, that knowledge and wisdom. I can't believe that you were able to get that from somebody. No, I think the short answer to your question is that we could tell you to apply it now, but it's sort of like telling somebody. So it's sort of like telling my wife not to worry when she's on an airplane. I didn't realize this was going to be the airplane reference show. I can tell her that we're not going to crash and that we're going to be fine, but she doesn't really deep down believe me. And so I can tell you to relax and not worry about things because everything's going to turn out okay, but you need to live it and learn it yourself. I think there's a certain amount of don't try to be in your 50s while you're in your 20s.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. We appreciate your wisdom. All right, well, we're at.
Can I ask a quick question, David Drebus? When you get wisdom coming back to you from another parent, is that parent always Tom Callahan?
No, that is a great. I will tell you the best other parent wisdom I've gotten was actually from when I was in high school. I had friends, Paul and Tim. They were both brothers. They both played the trombone. So I played the trombone. There was a lot in common, a lot of time spent together. And I ended up later on working for their dad. I was his research assistant at the World Bank. And he was one of those guys who just had some bit of wisdom for every occasion. So, for instance, and I was dating Henry's mom at this point. We were not married at this point. And he would talk about, he would call me into his office and we'd be talking about something. And then his wife would call. And inevitably, the conversation would turn to dinner. What are we having for dinner? And she would say something to the effect of, I'd really like Chinese food for dinner tonight. And he'd say, great. And then the conversation would end and he would say to me, Eleanor wants Chinese food for dinner tonight. And I would say, oh, well, we just had Chinese food for lunch here at the office. And he said, that's true. But you know what I said to her? And I said, well, what did you say to her? And he goes, I said, yes. Do you know why, David? And I said, why, Neil? And he goes, because it's just easier. So like there's a certain amount of things that you learn that I did get from him as a parent, as a husband, that he passed on, that it plays itself over and over again in my head. But yes, the wise Tom Callahan as well. Second that.
Well, very good. So we're at an hour now.
Do we want to do our last one? Because I want to ask I think you know what I'm talking about. The last question that we have on our list.
I think I do, but I also sort of wanted to ask one other one, if that's okay.
We should. It's not that important. We can also bring you guys back on not Father's Day to ask.
Honestly, I think we're killing it. So.
Yeah.
No.
Oh yeah.
I think both your viewers will want us back.
We have 3 concurrent viewers.
3.
3
no
concurrent.
One's dropped off.
No
Yeah,
one.
I think that's
true.
Killing it.
That's
one
the
of
most
them is Tom
impressive
Callahan.
Okay, so I think a lot of times I hear stories about my father, or that my father tells about when he was my age, and it's but they're always just sort of in little snippets, and so I get, piecing them together, I can sort of get an idea of who he was at that age. But I'd like to hear just as a succinct, direct answer, how you would describe yourself, your goals, really anything, your personality, just anything like that, when you were our age. And maybe start with Mr. Zanos.
How old are you?
20.
So David's sister was born June 19th, and I told her I'm very happy that I'll never have to forget her birthday again because it's a federal holiday.
There you go.
I don't know why I said that. So 21. 21. So I finished undergraduate, and I took a year off. I don't know if I ever told you that, David.
I had no idea.
I worked at a bookstore in Columbus, Ohio, near Ohio State campus called Student Book Exchange. And I actually worked there as a college student. After college, I came back and worked at a summer after I had a master's degree. And I always vowed that after I got my PhD, I was going to go back and do one day of work so that I could do it. I think they actually shut down, which is sad. But all right, so age 21, I wasn't sure where I was going to go after undergraduate. I figured I was headed to graduate school in some form or another, and so I took a year off. And one of the things I did in that year was I went to Brazil for 2 months, and there was a guy who was a friend of my brother's who was down there, and he was part of a church, and I just wanted to go down and see what life in Brazil was like. And it was in the Amazon, near Manaus, no, Santarém, and that was an awesome 2 months of just constructing buildings and trying not to get eaten by piranha fish. And so when I came back, I had done this senior thesis I talked about, had to do with religion and politics, which became a thing I was just interested in. In that case, it was missionaries and foreign service personnel in China in the late 1800s or late 1900s. And one of the guys that I read a bunch for that actually taught at Harvard Divinity School. So that's why I ended up there. And I wasn't sure, divinity school, you can do a lot of different things. They had a 2-year master's, which is what I did, which was just like a catch-all kind of academic oriented degree. And then they had the 3-year Master of Divinity if you wanted to go on and do. People that get a Master of Divinity from Harvard tend largely not to go become clergymen. They tend to go into all sorts of different things that are service related. But some do, some certainly do. But so I signed up for the 2-year master's and became convinced very early, because you had to take classes like Introduction to Theology and some of that. And I just became convinced in my first year that being a historian is what I wanted to do, which I had resisted mightily because my father was a historian. And I had to go from I will never study history, which is kind of where both my kids are at right now.
The mildly rebellious coming back.
To, then I got interested in history when I was at Ohio State. And then I had to say, I'm going to go into history, but I'm going to use my position to rebuke everything you ever found or published. And then I got over that. By the time you graduate, you're like, okay. But yeah, I realized that's what I wanted to do. So it was, but at age 21, I wasn't sure yet. It took until I was like 22, 23. Even then I was like, really? History professor? And I didn't end that well. I did some of that for a while, and it's not what I've done for the majority of my career. I am a historian, but as a consultant, and much of it is the same, but much of it is different. And it's weird because my advisor at Santa Barbara started the program in what's called public history, which is what I do now. That's the umbrella under which anytime you're practicing history and you're not a professor or a teacher, that's called public history. You work for a federal agency or in a museum, or you're, in an archive or whatever. But I just think everybody gets to that point at a different place. And so I don't think that there's anything special about 21 or 22 and making those kinds of decisions. People just are always on their own path. And it could easily have had taken me another 5 years to sort of figure out what I want to do. But so I think it's a time of great uncertainty and a time of great opportunity. because again, to go back to the earlier discussion, you haven't said, Well, you're starting to say no to some things, maybe, right, Henry?
No.
Deciding for yourself, what's working, what's not working. That process continues, and you get to the place where you settle in on something. But they keep saying that guys your age, there's no way you're going to work one career your whole life. Yeah. That's just not how the economy is anymore. Yeah. All right, so that was a rambling answer.
No, that was great. Yeah, learned a lot. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I would say that when I was your age, I was very much doing what I felt I was expected to do. Henry and I have talked about before the fact that how colleges and universities work these days, what they're for, how they sort of allow you to personalize your education was just not something I experienced. And I think I looking back, I wish I had been a little bit more adventurous or a little bit more willing to try new things. Back then, it was very much when I was in high school, I got good grades. I did a couple of extracurricular things. I applied to an in-state or two in-state colleges and picked one of them and spent my 4 years there. Again, a little bit involved in music, a little bit involved in service, and probably not enough involved in my classes. And then the whole thing was you're expected to go to college, you're expected to get a job, and then you come out of school and you get that job. And I think if I had a goal back then, it was to just do something that I cared about, something that I felt not was making some huge contribution, but I spent a year as an intern in my sort of pre-politically aware days. I spent a year as an intern and a year working for a neoconservative think tank before I sort of understood what that meant. Now, I kept in touch for a long time with people from that think tank who I worked for and have great respect for a lot of them. But I then moved after a couple of years to the other end of the spectrum, and I worked for a fully democratic public opinion polling firm for the next 25 years. So I found that place where I felt like if I myself wasn't doing the most important work, the company I worked for was doing important work, or at least work that I felt was important. So I think to the extent that I had a goal when I was your age, it was to do something that I thought was worthwhile, or like, again, to work for a company that was doing something that was worthwhile, be part of that. But I think I had much less, I think it was more expectations than or what I felt were expectations placed on me when I was 20, 21 years old than my own personal goals, other than to just sort of keep going and grow up and do the adult thing that adults do. I don't know that, I think it's different now for college students. I think it's different now for even high school students. The things that people are involved in, the things that they do, the things that are available to them. So I think that's a good thing. And I wish, like I said, I wish I had that opportunity or had the idea that I should go to Brazil for 2 months or any of a number of other things when I was that age. But I think, again, bringing it back to sort of perspective of being older, I did what I did, and I made some probably bad decisions, but all in all, in terms of my career path, my marriage, and all that, I think I made some really good decisions. And here's where I am, and you can't go backwards. You can only look forwards. And so I would say that it's important to have goals. You don't want to tie yourself to them to the extent that you are not open to other possibilities.
Lovely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that
lovely.
got deep.
Yeah. Well, I think there's only one question left.
And you can make it quick,
because
because it's like, oh, you're thinking of the would you rather. I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm thinking of the other one. I think.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to get into colorblind or tasteless, go
need to
comment.
get
Go
into it.
comment on that video.
Yeah.
But yeah, just because this has gone on for a while, and I think Henry and I will probably talk after, sort of do a Boonch recap.
Sure.
But yeah, our last question for you guys: if you had one simple piece of dad advice that you would want to give us, what would it be?
Now, is that advice about being a dad or advice as a dad? What do we?
Yes.
Okay.
Just advice that would typically come from a father, right? Like,
Oh, from a father. Okay.
don't
So,
iron your ties or something like
Yeah.
that. Just anything.
Definitely don't iron your.
Go mow the lawn.
Go mow the lawn is one of them.
and
It's
then
always
get
good.
and then get off of it.
Yeah. So very quickly, I'd rather be colorblind. Second,
Yeah.
I would say, in terms of actual parenting advice, kind of what I said before. If and when you have the blessing of being a parent, you will make great decisions. You will make awful decisions, but I will tell you what my mother told me, which is just love your children, and that's the big secret. That's my dad advice about being a dad. Other just more general life advice is to. We've talked a lot certainly over the past year, with a year and a half, whatever, with the pandemic, but just even more so, lots of other things going on, about gratitude. I think just being able to appreciate the things that you have is something that, opposite of what I told you before about I'm not going to tell you not to worry about flying on an airplane, or here's what you do when you're 20, based on where I am at 54. But I will tell you that I think that idea of I don't know whether it's practicing gratitude, but just taking the time to appreciate what you have and not wasting your time looking at other things. I think I don't know if that's dad advice. I feel like it's universal, but it's probably the best advice for someone your guys' age.
Lovely.
Wrap it up.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that piece of dad advice.
I gave this some thought, and I would say this: you got to know when to hold them,
Oh boy.
know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. Don't count your money while you're sitting at the table. There's time enough for counting when the dealing starts.
Brilliant.
Where do you get these things?
Culture. Hey, can I say one thing? I didn't want to dampen the light mood, but this is my first Father's Day without my father around. He passed away at the end of 2020. So I'd like a Boonch shout out to David's grandpa in honor of Father's Day.
Shout out to Grandpa.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, this has been absolutely lovely.
Absolutely lovely.
3 concurrent viewers who have not left is, I think, a new Boonch record. So,
Especially since none of them are me or Amanda.
Exactly.
So that's great.
Exactly. Yes, happy Father's Day. We love you. We cherish you. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. And David, if you have anything to say, I've just sort of started talking.
It's been lovely. It's been lovely, and we wish you guys back. And
Whenever,
we won't talk
just
to
say
you
the
unless it's on our podcast. So
Yeah.
we hope you guys come back because we want to talk to you again.
Awesome.
You guys make being a father easy, actually.
Oh.
So,
Stop
Second.
it. Stop
Many
it.
blessings.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Very grateful for you guys today.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
All right. So you guys should go enjoy your Father's Day. Henry and I are
Yes,
gonna
we've
chat.
taken up enough of your time now.
But
All right. Enjoy.
thanks for having us.
yeah,
You
of course.
Thanks, guys.
Ciao. Yes.
Oh man, come on.
Yes. I mean, have we reached a peak? Have we reached a peak now?
I really think so.
gosh.
I think it's all downhill from here.
Yeah, it's horrible when you bring on people that are more poignant and deep than
that don't just ramble.
Yeah, because now what are we gonna do? Like our next podcast is gonna be
we gotta up the game now.
Yeah, fruit tier list, but ones that don't have seeds. Oh
man!
It's just bananas and seedless watermelons. What are we gonna do?
What are we gonna do?
You ever wanna you ever ride a big dog? But yes, obviously very lovely gentlemen that we've had
Indeed.
on.
Yeah, great guys, our fathers.
But yes, we hope that this was. What were your thoughts about that?
I thought it was wonderful. I thought I have not interacted with your dad for this long before.
I know. Yeah,
and it was very exciting, and I loved seeing a lot of sort of just some of the mannerisms and facial expressions that he makes, and because they're the same that I see in you.
Yeah, that's what Leah always says, that my dad and I are basically the same person.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
no, it was a good time.
And I would say the same about. I mean, I've spent a time with David Drembus.
Oh, sure.
Because I mean, we got lunch that one time. Remember?
That's true. In the city, that was a good time.
In the city, that was a good time.
Yeah. About that.
Yeah, I've been to the house, and he's always a pleasure. And this was very nice.
It really was. This is a great idea.
And I'm glad we recorded it, because now we're going to be able to, because the stream was having some problems. I'll be able to re-upload it, and it'll be more clear for people. Even better. So yeah. On Wednesday, look out for us. We're going to be doing a dog tier list. We're going to be one of our bits.
It's not breeds. It's just different dogs that we know of.
Yeah, I'm going to be shaving my head, and then and that's it. So
getting back to the roots, our roots here, shaving our head and ranking dogs.
Boonch roots. But yeah, I mean, hopefully everybody's having a great Father's Day.
Indeed.
I think the Boonch boys are going to sign off and spend time. Well, you're going to spend time with your father because you're there. I'm going to spend time with my other father.
The open door.
Stephen H. Weinberger.
There he is.
But yeah, all right, we're going to sign off. Hopefully everybody had a good time, and we'll see you on Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Yes, we will. We love you. Bye-bye.